everyone. Welcome to Hidden History, the first live stream. There might be a bit of an echo, a few technical issues, but hopefully we'll iron them out by putting my phone quite far away from the speaker and talking quietly. But apart from that, we are professionals. So, our history is a pack of lies. What say you, Steve? This is Steve, by the way. He's an old pal of mine from school.
What an intro. Thank you very much.
You can give yourself an intro if you want. I mean, to be honest, I've rarely been on these things. So,
I think, to be honest, you've done such a good job that I'll take it and we'll just move on.
Perfect. So, Ancient Apocalypse, what are your first thoughts?
I mean, it's interesting, obviously. I mean, anything like that is always going to be engaging, even if it's, slightly questionable. But then also, that's the whole point of any kind of theory. It's meant to be questioned, and it's very rarely going to be airtight, particularly when it's based on evidence from thousands of years ago.
Yeah, and talking about that evidence, so do you think he presented much in the way of evidence, or did it tend to be, in your mind, a bit of a leap, should we say?
I think it was a bit of a leap. I mean, what he did present was very compelling, but that could just be a sort of showmanship to it, and obviously it's very singular. It's like, hi, I'm here with an archaeologist, and we're up on a hill somewhere, and we've done some seismic readings, and we think there's something in this hill. I mean, that's really interesting, but obviously it's not like he's saying, and I've now taken it somewhere, and it's been peer-reviewed by 20 different people. But, what's there is interesting enough, and, warrants more investigation.
Yeah, I mean, I found the whole thing very entertaining. And I thought the CGI and the camera angles and some of the aerial shots and all the rest of it was really very impressive, and obviously made you want to watch it more. I mean, I binged it pretty much in 2 days. I don't know if you watched all of it. I know you've watched an episode and a half before.
Most of it now, yeah.
Yeah, and it's quite. I mean, when Netflix goes to skip to the next episode, you sort of don't really stop it. But. Yeah, it had a bit of a so in that sense I thought it was a bit of a conjuring, really, a bit of a magic trick in a sense, because there was a lot of good stuff to look at, and a lot of nice bombastic music, and randomly meeting sort of so-called experts down dark corridors with flaming torches and things like that. So which is all good. But in terms of evidential stuff, I don't know. I'm happy to hear him out, but I am of the view that if you were playing a game whereby you had to take a shot every time he mentioned archaeologists or archaeology, I think you'd be quite inebriated by the end. He seems to definitely have a bit of a beef with them, I think.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. I wasn't sure when we were going to get to this. It's sort of, he definitely thinks that Big Archaeology is out to get him, which is interesting. And thing is, who knows? I don't know. I don't work in that field. They might be, for all we know. There might be but the problem with accusing sort of the establishment of covering of covering up things and coming after you is then you then sound like a nutcase. Even if you're right, and I think he doesn't do himself any favours by keep throwing that one out.
Yeah, it's almost like he had to get his attack in first, really, because I mean, right from the start, he was saying, people call me a pseudo archaeologist and all that kind of stuff, which is, you can say whatever you like. I mean, I quite like him. I think he comes across very well, and he's obviously very passionate, and he's quite an interesting, knowledgeable guy about a lot of what he's talking about. I just think that I don't know. I think he could have gone into it with a bit more of a conciliatory tone. I mean, I know he's written a lot of books, and they've obviously been lambasted by various sort of debunkers and all that sort of stuff, which I imagine has had a bit of an impact on how he sees them. But I think that if he'd have just presented his information and allowed us to kind of, which he does to a large extent, I think, but if he'd have just done that a bit more with fewer of the main archaeology won't tell you this, main archaeology says this is wrong, all that kind of stuff, I think it probably would have come across slightly less bitter.
Yeah, and I'd say that hasn't done him any favours. I mean, we won't dwell on this part too long. I think we should definitely obviously get onto the sort of the core content of it. But it just so happened that I read an article earlier and it says Ancient Apocalypse is the most dangerous show on Netflix was the title. Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't seen that one, but I've seen that the backlash has begun now from as you call it, Big Archaeology, and even one of the people he spoke to in Malta, who was actually in the series, has sort of done some slightly cryptic tweets about her involvement and how the editing and all that sort of stuff. So we'll see. Well, I mean, my view is sort of to close out the kind of background bit would be that I think introducing the profit motive is quite a good thing, because obviously if as the archaeologists as if they're a homogenous kind of group, but if their argument is that, well, we're not looking for these things that Hancock says are there because there's no financial incentive, it's like, well, if anything, this show does give them that, because they could have a ancient no-apocalypse kind of rebuttal show, which I think people would watch now as a result of this. So, and that's been my point. I think he's good in that he gets people interested in the subject matter itself from the outset, and then they'll read more about it. I mean, the same thing happened with me when I was a kid and I read Eric von Daniken's Chariots of the Gods, which is nonsense. I mean, it's just that is really pseudo-archaeology. That's a guy who looks at a lot of ancient structures and says, how did they build it? They couldn't possibly have built it even though it's there. And then he says it was aliens that did it. So that's kind of the premise. He does that with every single thing, Nazca lines, pyramids, and the whole shebang. But it got me interested in the individual things that he was writing about. Obviously, at the time, when you're a child, you look at it and you go, "Oh yeah, it could be aliens," and you sort of, no, it definitely isn't. And but I'm still interested in the Nazca lines, for instance, as a result of that book. So if that's all it achieves, then I think that's a good thing, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole, there's no such thing as bad publicity. It's like, obviously there's kind of merit in highlighting certain things. If it gets people interested in archaeology, then it's great. If it gets people reading more about it, and I found myself reading a little more about some of the subjects now I wouldn't have done before. So in that sense, it's done the job. But I think, yeah. So anyway, we'll move on from his reputation and the response. We might come back to it later, but I think we should.
I mean, I think it's important to set that out because obviously, the minute you sort of touch this subject or this particular individual, it does, it opens this sort of can of worms because of that sort of thing, and he's obviously quite divisive